Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us during this webinar. My name is Montse Romero. I take care of international sales at Arthur Holm. And today's webinar is going to take around 30 minutes. And we're going to talk about the concept of a boardroom and how technology, how empower the human connection. So let's start. Let's walk a bit through history. The history of a meeting room, of a boardroom. And we can say that in the early 2000s, all the communication was around a projector. We had a video projector projecting to a wall, as you can see here, and then there was a presenter and people sitting around the table looking at the projector image on the wall. Then in the late 20s, it was like the boom of the video conferencing. We're talking about brands like Tumblr, Polycom. So what we had was a central screen with a video conferencing camera normally located at the top of the monitor. And again, people were sitting around the table looking again at a wall. In the late 2010s, exactly in 2012, it was when the barcode click share appeared to the market. And I would say that this was a totally revolution. It was a very successful product. What we were doing then, we were sharing wireless presentations. So we were talking also about the smart screens. There were screens where you could interact, you could write on the screens, and then wireless sharing presentation systems were very popular. It was actually launched in April 2012. And since then, I would say that this has been a success. Today, and especially after the pandemic, what was a need was to schedule and to organize hybrid meeting rooms. And today we can talk also about the revolution of AI in the environment of boardrooms and meeting rooms. But what I would like to highlight is that during these 2 decades, and as you can see in the illustrations, it was like a conversation between humans and the machine, between the humans and the technology. But nobody around these tables is looking at each other. And this is exactly what we encourage at Arthur Holm, that people have to look at the other ones at the eyes. We cannot lose the nonverbal communication, which is the most important part of human interaction and human communication. So this is what we stand for at Arthur Holm, and this is why we exist. So we believe that everybody sitting around a table, first of all, we believe that the boardroom table is the core, is the center, is the heart of the communication, is the heart of the boardroom. So everybody should have a personal monitor, a gooseneck microphone or another kind of technology, but a personal dedicated microphone, and as well a camera, so everybody can be captured in the same way. So this is our concept of today's boardroom. So as you can see here, a monitor for each person. In the top of the monitor, there is a camera. So everybody is captured exactly in the same way. There is no preferred seats around the table, a dedicated microphone for each person. And then we can have in front of the monitor any kind of connections, power connection, HDMI, whatever you need, even a small loudspeaker. So the dispersion of the sound is totally uniform. You don't have the sound coming from the ceiling or coming from behind you. So everybody has the same importance, the same tools around these very important tables where people have to make very important decisions for the future of the company, for the future of a country sometimes. So this is our concept. You can see that there are more and more meeting rooms where there is a lot of natural light coming in. So we have glass walls, for example, which makes it difficult to place a large screen on the wall to start with. And then this is what we want to highlight. One personal device, one personal technology for each person sitting around the table. So the communication is between humans. It's not the machine and the human. The technology is there to support us, but the technology is not the main axis of the communication. The communication is between us, between the people who is sitting around a table. So as you can see here we have our DB3 monitor, which is a monitor that will appear automatically from inside the table, and then it will incline towards the user, so the user can decide exactly what is the position that they want. So we can have a monitor, a camera on top of the monitor. Also, we can incline it, we can decide the angle of the camera, so we have a perfect capture of the person sitting in front of the monitor, and then a dedicated microphone, a loudspeaker for each person. So we can have, in this case, it's a fixed microphone because the architect in this case didn't want to have a retractable system, but we could also Our idea, our philosophy at Arthur Holm is that the technology is there when you need it, and then you can make it disappear within the table when it's not needed. So we think that this is the greatest opportunity since the innovation of the overhead projector in 1940s, in the 1940s. I don't know if but this kind of technology, but it was like a projector on top of the table with a transparent slide where people was writing. So what we believe is that today technology brings back the most important part of meetings, which is visibility. We have to look at the persons that we have in front to analyze what are their reactions. Are they happy with what I'm saying? Are they angry? Do they understand my message? Do they don't get it? And also, of course, speech intelligibility is a must. So this was the overhead projector back in the times. And if we speak about about how Arthur Holm entered this adventure, this is a real picture of the year 2002. And at that time, flat screens were not that popular. So we were requested to manufacture a screen which could be hidden inside the meeting, the boardroom table. But because flat screens were not that popular, we did it with a CRT monitor, which was bulky monitor, very heavy monitor, but we did it. And it was like a system similar to our Dynamic 3, a monitor that opens and closes. And moreover, the architect and the table manufacturer didn't want to see any kind of different materials on top of the table. So the back of the monitor was veneered, in this case with wood. And this is how we started. This was an installation in Kuwait in exactly in 2002. Then, of course, flat screens became more popular. So we started developing the same concept, monitors to be integrated in a boardroom table, but flat technologies made our life much easier. So it was less weight, less space. So this is what we did. This is our first patent. So we started in 2004 and we came with a patent, which was not a very good idea because we were actually making a monitor appear from vertically from the table. But then when we wanted to tilt, we were tilting the whole block, even the part which was hidden inside the table. So what happened is that the person sitting in front, of course, either you left a very long space, a very long distance between the person sitting in front of the monitor and the monitor, or you could have this problem here. And it was in 2008, we were trying and finally we came up with a patent, which is still active today. So what we do is we have a retractable flat screen that goes up vertically and then it tilts. But of course, the part within the table is, and the peculiarity of our patent is that we do this with only one engine. This means less noise, less possibilities that you have any kind of issues. And of course, it's a very trustable system and a very reliable system. So what boardroom? This is important to understand because normally people who are sitting around a boardroom table, they are senior persons, very important persons who need to take very important decisions. They need to make strategic decisions. So what they want to do is they want to have all the information very close to them. Why? Because the experience is totally different. You can have all the information in a wall screen, in a video wall, but this is far away. So some people need to have the information closer, especially if we're talking about the small figures. We're analyzing an Excel file, for example, or vital information, vital financial information. So the table is a fixed layout table. It's a bespoke table. It's a table that has been especially designed for that concrete meeting room. And when I say this is because it's only a way to gather people to make decisions, but it also communicates the corporate image of the company. This is why we always insist that we have to cooperate from the beginning of the project. Our technology is not an add-on. It has to be designed from the initial, from the beginning of the project. We have to be coordinating with the architect, with the interior designer, of course, with manufacturers. So everybody there, the stakeholders are the system integration, the system integrator, of course, the end user who needs to decide what is the use that they are going to do in that meeting rooms, but also the architect, the interior designer, and the table manufacturer, of course. So every seat needs to equip with advanced technology. I mean, monitor, I mean, microphone, I mean, loudspeaker, I mean, camera, and sometimes as well, connections in front, which can be together with the monitor, or we can also supply a different system with a standalone system. So this is our concept of a boardroom. One monitor per person. This monitor can disappear inside the table when it's not needed, and it becomes almost invisible. So we have a lot of tools to help furniture manufacturers so they can be near our solutions. And the idea is that when the solutions are integrated, are hidden in the table, you don't see any kind of different materials. You just see a small line, which are the coated lines, nothing else. And this is an example, for example, of a round meeting room is made of wood. The table is made of wood, sorry. And you can see here there are two seats in front of the monitor, and you can see there is a double microphone. This is because there is one screen shared by two meeting attendees. So this is also a possibility. We can have also, for example, this is a meeting room in a hotel. So they are renting this meeting room so people can go there and they pay to have the experience to have this meeting and to share the information through our device. This is another example of a boardroom. I don't know if you can see it because it's pretty small, but on top of the monitor, camera. So here we have a monitor that opens and closes, and it takes a minimum space underneath the table because the structure of this table is open. We don't have a long, we don't have that much space to start with, and then the people is sitting very close to the monitor. So we need to keep to avoid that the person sitting in front touches with the legs. This is another example of what I mean. I talk about the solutions which become invisible. So here we have a monitor, we have a microphone as well. You cannot see it because the microphone is down, but here you can see the button to raise a microphone and some connectors. The layout is totally flexible and to be decided together with the system integrator and the end user. And when the product is down, as you can see in this table, nothing is visible. It's totally visible. In this case, the table, our dynamic 3 monitors that open and close, have been covered with wood. So we don't see anything. And when the meeting starts, we push a button through an automated system, and then you have access to the monitor. We could also integrate a keyboard and mouse if actually the user wants to interact with the screen, or we can supply it with a touch screen with an embedded camera. We could add a microphone. In these cases, the microphones are boundary microphones. So what is important to know as well, and I think this illustration, it tells a lot about it, is that, okay, we have one monitor in front of the person sitting around the table, but the persons never lose the eyesight. They are looking at each other. And this is why we wanted to make this webinar, and this is why we wanted to emphasize this. The communication is between humans. Technology is there to help. But technology is not on the way. Nobody is forced to turn the head to look at a wall. And you can see here, this is surrounded by glass walls. So everybody is looking at the center of the table, looking at the presentation, focusing on the message that they want to receive, but they don't lose the eye contact, which is vital for the nonverbal communication. Then we can talk about different shapes of table. This depends on what the wants and what the architect and the table manufacturer want to propose. From circular, round tables, if you want to create a static environment, you can have a rectangular table where hierarchy is more important, for example, or you can make combinations like oval tables. Here you can see we have DB2 monitors. You cannot really see it, but here there are some automated boxes to hide tissues and to hide bottles of water. There are also retractable microphones. And here's when you have the technology visible. So the customers, the users of this kind of boardrooms, they don't want to know anything about technology. They want to go to the room, have the meeting, and make the decision. That's it. So it has to be clean, it has to be easy to use, it has to be intuitive, and we have to create experience. So from the table manufacturer approach, we think that furniture market is very crowded. There are a lot of furniture manufacturers, but for the manufacturer is also an opportunity to propose a totally custom-made table where technology is totally integrated with the design and with the layout of the table. With the same finishing material, of course, it's a premium product because it's custom made 100%. And I think that it helps also furniture manufacturers to a very strong relationship with the end users because we are proposing exactly a bespoke boardroom for each customer, with different finishes, with the logo of the customer, with different features, so we can adapt 100%. So the collaboration within AV integrators and interior designers positions the company to offer a full solution. It's not just a supplier. We are offering a custom solution for each meeting room. We are creating unique spaces. We are creating unique experiences. And what we need to prevent is the aftermarket modification. I mean, that you cannot have a table. Of course, you can have and then make the cutouts. But normally, these kind of projects are designed from the beginning. So we're talking about the art of seamless integration. And is that AV equipment works best when it's designed, not added on. It's something that we need to work from the beginning of the project. For example, let's take a look at this fantastic project. Here you have a very high ceiling with a fantastic lamp, with a leather table, absolutely beautiful, with a lot of glass around the walls. So what you can see here, when the monitors are down, when the technology is down, you just see the leather, nothing else. If you look carefully, you can see these thin lines, which are the cutouts of the products. You can see that this bar here is open as well. So here we could not integrate a monitor that takes a big space underneath the table. It would be visible. So we needed to propose a solution which took the minimum space underneath the table. And this is what you have when the meeting starts. So the shades are down and then the monitors open, in this case, dynamic 3 monitors that open like a laptop, but motorized. Here we have a horizontal system for a microphone, because again, it was an open table, as you saw in the previous slide, so we could not have a long tube sticking out of the table. And in this part here, we have also connection box that is totally covered with leather. Furthermore, the center of the table in this case was made of glass, and the customer didn't want to have any loudspeakers integrated in the center of the table. So what we did, the loudspeaker inside the monitor, inside the tray, the internal tray of the monitor. So the monitor opens, and here you have the loudspeaker, microphone connections. And this is an example of what we can do. For example, here we have a table, very classic design. The table is made of wood. As you can see, the environment is very sober, very classic. So when the technology is down, you don't even realize there is technology here. Nothing is visible, and this is our undercover solution. Undercover, you have this automated hatch that will disappear within the table, and the furniture manufacturer can cover this with leather, with wood, with any type of materials. So it doesn't matter if the boardroom is very modern, if it's very classic, it doesn't matter what kind of material they are going to finish the table with. Everything is possible with the undercover solution. So beauty meets functionality, and also we optimize the space. This is our proposal for the meeting rooms of today, the boardrooms of today. So we have a monitor, a retractable monitor that will appear vertically from the table. This monitor will incline to the user, and the inclination is totally flexible. You can stop it at any point. There is a retractable camera on top of the monitor, so we can also adjust exactly the position of the camera to have the best capture of the person sitting in front of it. We have a retractable USB-C cable where the users can connect a laptop. We have a share button, so can distribute this input to the rest of the monitors to the table. And then we have a gooseneck microphone. We have also the buttons for, here we have the push to. And when the technology is hidden inside the table, nothing is visible. You just thin lines, the cutout, nothing else. Everything is prepared to be veneered. And why do we do that? Because, as I said before, we believe in one-to-one communication. We believe in human interaction. And also, for example, when I create this presentation, how do I do it? And how does people work normally? We create a presentation with our laptop, which is normally a 13 inches, 15 inches screen, maybe 17. So we want to replay the information, how it was created, exactly to replicate it one by one. So it is also very important that in today's meeting room, of course, we need to have hybrid meetings. We need to connect by Teams, by Zoom, by any platform, communication platform. So it's important that we make feel the people who are sitting on the other side of, who are not present on the room, like if they were there. So we have to minimize the remote feeling. How do you do that? Creating the information like the more natural that you can. So this is why it's important to have a dedicated camera per each person. So you make the people who is at the other end of who is following the presentation from another place to feel like if they were in the room. Of course, it's never going to be the same, but we want to replicate and to create the closest experience as we can. And why to design a room around a wall? The center of attention As humans, we are humans. We cannot be talking to a machine. We need to be talking to each other. We need to be looking at the eyes of each other. And of course, we need to respect the furniture. We need to respect the materials of the furniture manufacturer. We need to respect the opinion of the interior designers. We need to respect, of course, the opinion of the end users. What is the value of this? Let's say that, well, these are facts. This is scientifically proven. So for 55% of communication is non-verbal communication, is body language communication. This is why we have to face each other. This is why the boardroom table is the center of the boardroom, and we have to be communicating between us, not communicating to a machine, not looking to a wall. So freedom is also an investment. And when I say freedom is that the table manufacturer needs to be free to use whatever materials they want. Do they want to finish the table with marble? Do they want to use wood? Do they want to use leather? Do they want to make different colors? So we need to adapt. We need to make their life easier. And the result is the persons who are sitting around these amazing tables, they are more creative. They concentrate better because they can focus on the information just in front of them without losing the eye contact with other people sitting around the table. They need to come with new ideas, with motivation, and of course, they need to make the best decisions. Also, when the meeting is over, you should push a button and everything should be hidden inside the table and become almost invisible. We don't want to see stainless steel. We don't want to see any kind of different materials on top of the table. Everything totally integrated, everything totally streamlined with the design of the table. It's like when you go to a meeting, you dress for work. Then when you're home, you undress. So it's same. We want to want to have the boardroom table prepared when people goes in, and we want to hide everything. Also, we can provide the table with more versatility, more flexibility. It can be used for other purposes rather than for a meeting when it's not needed. So what is also important is that this important person sitting around a boardroom table, they don't want to know about AV. So we need to create a system which is intuitive, which is very easy to use. We need to respect their time. Nobody wants to be there looking for a cable where to connect a laptop. No, everything plug and play, easy, straight to the point, face-to-face communication. And also, you know that we have a product called Dynamic Speaker, and this is becoming more and more popular because why to change the direction of the human voice? It's like in a meeting, yeah, of course, we're talking about nonverbal communication, facial expression, eye contact, but also intelligibility is a very important point. So why don't spread the sound exactly how we're talking now? So we're spreading the sound horizontally without having the sound coming from the ceiling or from behind. And this is the concept as well behind our dynamic speaker. So we say, and well, it's not us who says that, it's a famous architect who says that we need to design our world so that we have positive social and environmental side effects. And how does this translate to the AV world? So I think that this explains it very clearly. This is, for example, well, this is the price of the tickets for a concert of Adele in Las Vegas. So the artist is on the stage and you can see that the prices in the first rows are much higher. We're talking about double price of the seats that are farther back. Why? Because you don't have the same experience when you are closer to the source, in this case, closer to the artist, that when you're far away. And this is the same with our technology. We want everybody to have the same experience. This is why it's important that all participants have a dedicated monitor, a dedicated microphone, a dedicated camera, and also loudspeaker. So same visibility, no obstructions. Each seat is a sweet spot, and we don't want to lose participants before the meeting starts because they cannot see correctly the screens and so on. So talking a bit about how to cooperate with furniture manufacturers and how to make our technology invisible. So we are mastering veneering with the technology. So we have different tools, and you can contact us after this webinar and send you videos of how to veneer. So basically how it works is the system integrator integrates in this case, it's a monitor inside the table. And then the furniture manufacturer can place exactly the same finishing on top of the table. This can be done very easily. For example, using technical double-side tape. So you have to put the tape, as you can see, on the top of the monitor. So this is pretty easy. You just cut the tape, you just put the tape. Then we give you exactly the dimensions of the veneer. So you know the table manufacturers knows exactly what is these pieces that they have to glue on top of our undercover or underneath installation systems. You have all the details of how to do that, what pressure you need to apply, how to do this. We have also different methods for veneering. For example, in this case, it's a DB2 monitor. So we can place a veneer on top. The table manufacturer can place a veneer on top and then leave the hole for the sensor, because there is a sensor on top so they can touch and they can open the device, for example. Or if they don't want to have this sensor visible, they can apply a very thin layer of veneer on top. So they have to create two layers, one which is a distance plate and then a thin layer of veneer. Or they can drill from inside, so they leave this space internally where there is a space for the sensor. This is, for example, an example of undercover. So here, again, we give you exactly the dimensions. We give you what is the maximum thickness. We add a larger sensor so it can work through the veneer. And here, what is important, well, you can see exactly how to do it. Of course, when you apply in this case, the tape, you have to leave this space for the sensor. So you have to cut this space for the sensor. But all this is explained in our documentation. And then you apply this piece on top of the monitor, and then that is it. You have a totally invisible product. Just a very quick note, because I think that sometimes there are some misunderstanding between what is the difference between underneath installation and undercover solutions. Underneath installation is exactly the same product without the frame where you have the two buttons for up and down. So what we get rid of this frame, you have to integrate from underneath the table, and then you have to veneer this hatch here. That's all. This is how it looks. And this is how it looks in a Dynamic 3. So this is underneath installation. It's the same product without the frame to be integrated from underneath the table. So there is no price increase. Okay, undercover is different. Here we add an automated hatch that will slide down inside the table and is prepared for. This is an undercover solution. So you see this hatch here. This disappears automatically within the table. And then when it's closed, you just can't see these thin lines, which are the cutouts. And then it can be veneered. In this case, you can see it here with wood. It can be veneered with different kind of materials, as you can see here, for example, with a bronze finish. Or it can be only for the microphone, so only for the dynamic talk. So you can have a solution together with the monitor, the microphone, or only the microphone. And then we can also supply different finishes, anodized aluminum. In aluminum, when we anodize, we have a limited palette of colors. So basically it's natural, which is our standard. We can anodize in black, we can anodize in gold, we can anodize in bronze. But if you want us to paint the monitors, then there is no limit. You just need to tell us what is the raw color, and then it can be painted, and the choice is much larger than anodization. We can add the customer logo, and it's important that you understand also what is the difference between conductive and non-conductive materials. Because if you want the customers to open with our sensor, it needs to be a non-conductive material. So, for example, non-conductive materials are wood, plastic, leather. Okay, but if you want to use, for example, if you want to put on top, for example, kind of a special steel, then the sensor will not work. And then you can either control the opening and close through a control system, like QSys, Crestron, Extron, AMX, and so on, or you can supply also external box with two buttons for the open and close that the table manufacturer needs to integrate at the edge of the table or at the top of the table, wherever they want. But you need to use this, because then sensor will not work through a conductive material. So we provide all these tools to make integration effortless. We can provide CAD design, 3D step files of the product, so please ask for them and we will send to you so you can see exactly. Or when you make a quotation, well, this is actually a connection box. So we also manufacture retractable connection boxes to be veneered. So we can provide 3D drawings as well. Or what we can do is also, and this you should ask us when you are doing, um, when you're, for example, when you are preparing. Let me show. We can also supply a template. A template is a blind plate of the cover plate. So the furniture manufacturer can experience and can design the table. So this is totally flash mounted. Otherwise, this is template. Otherwise, we can provide a dummy unit. And a dummy unit is a physical volumetric unit. So you have the monitor. Would be the part underneath the table. These are the fixing points that have to be fixed to the table. And this part here is simulating the top of the monitor. This is a DB2, for example. So this is a dummy, a volumetric unit. Okay. And, and this is a template. So it's a different, set with different prices, but please uh, be aware that you have all these tools available. So our idea is to make your the life easy of the table manufacturer. So here you will have all the dimensions, how to make the table cutouts, how to prepare the table, how to integrate our products. As I say, this is a template. It's a blind cover plate, okay, and this is a dummy, a volumetric unit. So manufacturer can understand what is the length of the product and can have well, like a physical unit without the electronics inside, okay. So please talk to us. We will send prices for dummies, for templates. And what you can also do is to send us the AutoCAD drawing of the table, so we can place our solutions on the table. And then you can show to the end user how this will look like. For example, receive an AutoCAD like that, and then we place the monitors here where you can see the dynamic talk, you can see the DB2 or the DB3 monitor, dynamic 3, whatever product you have chosen. So we receive the drawing like that, and then we send you a drawing like this with our proposal. So here you can see two dynamic speakers in the middle and one monitor per each meeting participant. So please also, when you have a project, share the AutoCAD drawing of the table so we can help you place the different elements. Then we can also provide you with ergonomic recommendations. What is the distance that you need to leave? So there is no collapsion, there is no touch with the legs of the person sitting in front of the monitor and the box inside the table. What is the right distance if you are going to use, for example, a camera, or if it's a monitor to be shared by two meeting attendees? If you have a camera, or if you have a double camera. For example, you have one monitor per two participants, and then you want to have two cameras on top of the monitor. You can see here one camera and another camera. So we can also supply it with two cameras. So all this is available through our private area. And then, well, you can also see here in this video how to install our DB2 from underneath the table, which is straightforward, easy. The table manufacturer only needs to make, in this case, a 24 millimeters hole on the table. And then the system integrator will integrate from underneath the table and will adjust the product so it's flush with the table surface, whether in a stand or with a veneer on top. We say 24 millimeters because our product takes 20 millimeters, but we always recommend to leave a tolerance of 2 millimeters height on each side to avoid that the monitor touches the table. And then, of course, there is a protection system, so the monitor would stop. This is why we always recommend to leave this tolerance. So This is exactly what you would receive if you order a dummy unit. So as you saw on the video, you will receive the unit with the fixing points. So the table manufacturer can very easily see how to adjust the monitors. And this is a wooden piece, but this simulates the top of the monitor. So then it's very easy to find a solution and to see clearly how to integrate this in the table. If the table manufacturer doesn't see very clear how to make the cutout on the table, also supply a frame to to hide the cutout. Okay, so this is another possibility. And then I would just to finalize, I would like to talk a bit very quickly about the connection boxes that we manufacture. This is our dynamic connect tower. It is a motorized, vertically motorized connection box. In the private area of our website, you can design your own connect tower. So you can design what connectors do you want. Do you want a motorized USB-C cable here, for example, HDMI, a USB-C, power outlet, and here you can configure your box. You can decide if you want a tabletop installation or if you want a veneered solution, so you can place on top the same finishing of the table. So you just need to decide what connectors you want, and automatically you will come with a design and with a price. We have the same also for manual boxes. This is not automated. Here you would push, it will open in two different parts. And again, you can decide exactly what connections you want. We have three sizes here: 4 units, 7 units, and 10 units. So in depending on the number of connectors, you can decide, you can select what is the size of the house of the connection box that you want. Again, you can create your own connection box using this tool. And it even indicates you, for example, here we have a power outlet and we need a space for the cable. So it indicates that you cannot add any connector beside, but this is automatically done. So it's very intuitive, very easy to use. Please use it and you will get the price automatically and also the layout. So what challenges can you face in a meeting room? Well, you know, exactly. Limited space, different materials on top of the table, different shapes of the table. For example, in this case, it's a table where they wanted to keep the minimum, use a product that took a minimum space within the table. Then we have different solutions. This one which opens and closes automatically, it only takes a small space underneath the table. Otherwise, we have dynamic 3 that opens and closes and can also rotate like with a minimum space on the table as well. We have solutions for to hide Kleenex. We have solutions to hide bottles of water. We have solutions to hide microphones, solutions to integrate it in the chairs if you want to have chairs around the table. And that's the result. So amazing tables where the technology is hidden and the technology is only visible when you need it. So I would like to thank you very much. I think I took a bit longer than expected. If you have any questions, just please write me an email to mromero@arthurholm.com or mromero@alviral.com, and it will be my pleasure to help you answering the questions that you may have. So thank you very much. And just to conclude, I would say that both table design and technology play a important role in meeting psychology. We do a lot of studies together with architecture, neuroarchitecture studies, for example, and it is really important to understand that the shape of the table, the material, the seating layout, the distance between people around a table plays a profound, has a very important impact in the decisions that we make. And we think that interaction between the different players in this market is very important. As I say, the architects, the interior designers, furniture manufacturers, and of course, system integrators becomes crucial. So if you have any ideas of how we can improve our literature, our documentation to make this communication easier between the different stakeholders, please also send me an email. It will be my pleasure to discuss this with you. And I would like to thank you once again for your time. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.